for these times constituents. It's great to see so many people here in far wide, right from 7 right to this point, even more 11. Good evening, I'm a private citizen and I've organised this hustings because I think it's Helston serving 42,000 people with a wider footprint. It's only right and proper that we do so. And to put that into context, there's about 71,000 electorate in the constituency. So you can see Helston acts as a hub town for the constituency. And I'm not representing any organisation at all. There are 9 candidates, as you've probably seen on the various websites. We've got 6 here tonight. 3 aren't able to make it for various reasons. Dr. Flisson Ali from Labour, Gianni Mortimer from Reform, and Paul Nicholson from the Liberal Party. I'd like to thank Danny Reid, who's not here tonight, but thank him for letting us use this great venue. And I'm sure it goes without saying that it's not because it's a church, it's because we are all civilised members of the community, and we will treat everyone tonight with respect. I expect that that's especially the case because the chair tonight is Dr. Pat McGovern. Many of you may know him, maybe some of your children know him better, former head teacher of Helston Community College. He lives outside of the constituency, so we're in good hands tonight. Pat, over to you.
Thank you very much. An enormous thanks to Dave for organising this evening, which of course is a really important part of the democratic process, and I'm delighted that we've got six of the candidates standing for this constituency here this evening. In a moment, they're going to have 30 seconds each to give a very brief introduction, a little bit about themselves and who they're representing, why they're doing this, and then it's going to be over to the floor. We haven't asked for written questions before, so I've got no questions up here, so it's going to be questions straight from the floor. As soon as they do the introduction, you just put your hands up, and then when you stand up, you say your name and where you're from, and give us your question. We're also going to try and balance it so we can cover a range of kind of issues. And we're talking about, the sort of really big issues that matter to our country. I mean, this election is a crucially important election, and we want to know where candidates stand on a whole range of things. But as I said, candidates are going to do their very best to keep their answers succinct. I'll move it around so a different candidate gets to start each time. But even if each took a minute, it's going to be 6 minutes per question. So we're going to try and see if we can do that. Is that okay? Okay. Well, they drew lots before we got on stage, and we've got a sort of speaking order in terms of the introductions. And so I'm going to start with Ian Flindle.
Good evening. My name is Ian Flindle. I'm not asking you to vote for me. I'm asking you to vote for the future. That future has to be green.
Andrew, if the 3 of us use this, that one doesn't need to keep coming across in front of the house.
Ian, thank you very much. And that's number 2. Number 2 is Derek.
Thank you. It's not lost on how privileged I am to do this job, and in particular, this beautiful part of the world. I don't take that for granted, and I try not to waste a day doing the job. But the kind of thrust of what I've been trying to do is to make sure that people have the things they need as close to home as possible, and that we provide or create an environment where people can train and get the jobs they need to be able to live here, raise their families here, and thrive.
Great, thank you very much. That's good. I'm going to go now to Dave.
Hello, my name is Dave Lacey. I was born and bred in Arizona, and I've spent most of my working life in the area. I started off as a medical scientist, but changed to be a policeman. I've got 8 grown-up offspring, who 7 of which live in the county, so I have a vested interest in them. And I thought it was about time for a change. So, you can help me change things. I can do it. I can do it for your level. Thank you.
Dave standing as independent. John.
I'm John Harris. I'm representing the common people in this constituency. I'm hoping there might be questions on minimum voting age. That was the thing that came into my mind when I heard the Labour. announcement on it. Thank you.
John, thank you very much. Andrew.
Andrew George. I'm standing for the Liberal Democrats. I was the MP between 1997 and 2015. I think it's vitally important we re-establish and restore this country in respect of social justice. For example, I think it's wrong that £500 million is spent subsidising holiday homes when we need first homes in this part of the world. I think it's wrong that we should be closing hospital services and so on when there are so many people that are dying as a result of ambulance queues. And I think it's wrong that we're dumping sewage in the sea at the time when top execs are receiving enormous bonuses. We need to change this world, completely turn it around. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, I'm Jason Saunders and I'm representing UK.
Okay. We have to stretch, don't we?
I'm representing UKIP as the independent in Party UK, and I'm new to the system, so this is my first night of incidents. And basically, what I was hoping for is change. That's what I'm representing. Thank you.
Jason, thank you very much. Wow, we're off to a good start. Everyone has to all keep to their 30 seconds. That's like pretty good going.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Over to you, over to the floor.
Brilliant, thanks.
Put your hand out.
That's great, thanks.
When you stand up to say a question, can you just give your name and then your question, and we will. Thank you, sir. Please, you're right.
My name is Richard Mackay. I'm from I'll be over here.
They need it, I think.
Hello.
That's it.
My name's Richard Mackay. I'm from Godolphin Cross, small village, like lots of other Cornish villages, 700 people. But we've got no pub, no churches, no playgrounds, no nothing. And then this morning, from Mr. Thomas, who told us about how he wants to keep services close to people. He told me he basically agreed with the post office's decision to cut in half the 3 hours a week we get to serve the 700 people of Godolphin Cross. Now then, his reason was he agreed with the post office that there were not enough people using the service. And I think what he's talking about there, no doubt in my mind, is he's talking about profits. Not enough people, not enough profit. How the hell do you make profit selling first and second class stamps?
Sorry, just interrupt one more.
How do you do that? My question is,
Thank you.
having agreed with the post office and having seen the horrendous cuts to the post offices and withdrawal of the banking system, how are we going to bring back into this part of Cornwall for the old and for the infirm and for the ill the kind of services they need, which are not run on the basis of profits?
Thank you very much.
So Richard, I haven't seen the email you received it from them myself. Well, I am aware of the conversation. I'm aware that without warning, the post office reduced the mobile provision to 1 day rather than 2 sessions. The reason it did, and I'm not saying I agree with it, but the reason it did is that there isn't enough footfall through the 2 sessions we had to justify that. I have worked extremely hard to get that mobile service, not just in the fantastic that you've got in the but across different parts of the country. The mobile van, for example, was achieved because I stood up at Parliament and said how scandalous it was that post office services and access to cash and banking services would be withdrawn. There is still a lot of work to do. We're getting close to resolving some of the challenges around. But we do have I think I haven't seen the email, because I can't remember myself, I've been out of it. But I think the intention of the email is to try and rally the community, Godolphin and around, to use the service more. That is the way.
No, it's not. Read the email. That's completely wrong. Read the email. How can you comment on an email you've not read?
No,
it supports the post office's decision. Another one's gone down on your watch.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
So, but you talked about the church, you talked about the pub, and you talked about the post office in your community. They closed because of footfall. That's why these things closed. We are doing what we can to encourage people to use these services because we need to keep them available to vulnerable people that maybe haven't got access to services online. And we've done a lot of work in our office to drive that message home.
Thank you very much. Dave?
Post office.
Like services in Cornwall.
What services in Cornwall?
In rural areas, yes.
The post office in general has been sold to a foreign gentleman from the Czechoslovakian Republic, which is the Republic of Czechoslovakia. So that's royal land, isn't it? So that's royal land. But the post office, it should be in every village, in my opinion. And I think the profits are taken prior and in favour of corporate entity and corporate gain, where we should be providing a service, and that service should be us, the people, not profits for shareholders.
David's quite right about the profit part and the putting out of money as dividends from these companies, in particular those that were called the private sector, the public sector works. If you have companies which are primarily there for putting out dividends in what used to be the public service, then you are going to get these problems, and you are going to have things that are working undercuts, things that are working to maximize efficiency, are going to shut those bits that are unprofitable, ignoring the fact that they are a public service and they have to remain one. So the answer with all of them, whether it's water or whether it's the post office or whether it's any of these things, is to recognise that they fall into that category and just stop their ability to hand out dividends at all. And from that, and with contributions from the government and possibly from the local council to keep them running, then they stand a chance, but they don't otherwise in these small villages, as best I understand it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The job of a Member of Parliament is to stand up against corporate interests, including corporations which are owned by government, and not simply to echo the words of that corporation, which I think is the point that I think is being made here this evening. When I was a Member of Parliament, I fought to retain a wide range of post offices across this constituency. And indeed, the Liberal Democrats in the coalition government, extremely painful years, but one of the outcomes of that was that although we had to, because through competition laws and rules, and also to deal with the £11 billion black hole in the Royal Mail pension system, allow the part privatisation of Royal Mail, much against my kind of natural inclination, we at least got an agreement from the government at that stage that we would preserve the network of post offices around our rural communities. And what has happened since I lost the seat in 2015 is we've had 12 post offices closed across this constituency, including in towns the size of Newlyn, Porthleven, Marazion, Gulville, Carbis Bay. So it's not just the vulnerability of smaller communities like that at Godolphin that are suffering as a result. And the problem is, once you withdraw those services and replace it with a temporary or a mobile service, as they're finding in Godolphin, that can be withdrawn at a moment's notice without any consultation, so it's an extremely vulnerable service. Now, as a Member of Parliament, one needs to argue and champion on behalf of those communities, and I think of those people who are concerned about the future of those communities need to have someone that is going to champion, is going to stand up to the post office. In the same way, during the Horizon scandal, I stood up for local postmasters and postmistresses who were wrongly accused and threatened with imprisonment as a result of an overbearing, autocratic post office which is operating purely as a remote, centralised organisation without a care for the impact it's having on the communities it's now failing to serve. Thank you. This is not very good.
Right, you mentioned the Horizon scandal, and I think
Is that not for you?
the post office has been shown to be wasting huge amounts of money in corporate affairs and bonuses, shareholders payouts and the rest of it. As Andrew says, without much regard to what's happening at the ground level. It's a pity Mr. Ed David didn't pick it up when he had the chance and was speaking to Mr. Alan Bates.
That's very unfair.
Obviously, there's a lot of money that could be better spent, but it seems, according to Mr. Bates, post offices are busted flush, and we should start again. I think that's all I can say on it. I'm not familiar with the local situation.
Thank you very much. Andrew, you want to come back?
Well, thank you. Just on the perpetual criticism of Ed Davey in relation to the Horizon scandal, I just wanted to come back specifically on that because Ed Davey himself was one of 18 ministers, 18 post office ministers who presided during the period while this appalling and unfair treatment of sub-postmasters and sub-postmasters carried on. And I think it's worth saying that, first of all, he did meet Alan Bates. I remember because I was one of those small group of MPs that were campaigning in relation to the Horizon scandal at the very time. So I remember that happening. And the other point is this. That's the reason why we need to have strong members of Parliament that shout about things that are going wrong on the ground. And that is that there is a limit to what a minister can do in terms of intervening into a publicly owned entity. And if you consider this as the most appropriate, I think, and relevant parallel, it would be like saying that a culture minister could walk into the BBC and dictate to them what programmes they shall and shall not broadcast. I mean, so a post office minister is restrained in terms of the level of intervention that they can make. They can raise questions, as Ed and many other ministers across all parties, to be fair, did. But it's right that, of course, we are very careful, and there's a ministerial protocol as far as what they can and cannot do in terms of intervening and dictating how public service is run. Thank you.
Well, I'll come back to this. A couple of things. Firstly, there's a government organisation. Before the Conservatives started with the coalition government in 2010, 50 post officers were forced to close in the constituency, not on RTMP, but Andrew's MP. 12 have closed since, but they've closed due retirement and due businesses being sold. And so it's a completely different situation. As we know, the forced closing programme was stopped by the Conservative government. What has changed is that new businesses we've been working with new businesses and they don't want to take it on, partly because of the reputation of the post office regarding the Horizon. So I worked extremely hard with post submasters and potential submasters to take on services. So we have achieved that in many areas. What we haven't been, and as I said, we secured the mobile service because otherwise these communities would be left without services completely. What I want the Dolphin is for you to do what you can to rally, because what the post office have done, you're absolutely right, they closed it with no notice. That would breach their own rules. So now they, as you know, as far as I'm aware, they're keeping it open to the end of July, and at that time, they'll close it. I mean, we can demonstrate in that time there's demand. There's no reason why they wouldn't maintain that service. And I know exactly who runs it. They come out of the Rain Post Office, and they're keen to continue to run service. They go up to Curie Week, and they run, there's a coffee morning there where they go. There is an opportunity to keep the services, but we do need people to use them.
Thank you very much. Okay, I think we're doing that in a fair area. Thank you very much for raising that question. Yes, please, the lady back there was right. If you just let us know your name and your question.
My name's Amy Christopher's and I live in Port Bedford. First of all, it's nothing personal, but we've got to improve the diversity of what's on offer. Looking from here to there, this panel is quite crazy to look at. And so in that kind of spirit, how are we going to engage young people and more diverse people to get involved in elections and, you know, the way our towns are run, rather than these kind of schemes that have been moved to kind of national service and things like that? How can we get people genuinely excited to become involved in our democratic processes?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. Yes, please.
Yes, thank you for that question. It's quite relevant, as I said earlier, I've got 8 offspring ranging from 43 down to 23. 4 of them between 23 and 27. And they've got no hope of buying a property in this county whatsoever. But at least 7 of them still remain and work here, despite the difficulties. Giving the game away now to my colleagues on the panel here, I personally will be attending youth events such as car meets, which a lot of people think they're banned, motorcycle meets, car meets, and youth centres, anything that I can get the youth on board, because they're our future. I'm fighting for my children's future, and I realised that that was what was the problem. So that's why I put up, because if we don't do something for the next generation, nobody else will. They don't know there's a big problem like we know. We know what the problems are. We can fix them. And because I've got a vested interest in it, youth is the main target of my manifesto, which will be out in the next 4 years. Thank you.
Yes, engage young people. This is the question of voting age, I think. There are people in this country who don't get to vote in an election until they're 23, with a 5-year gap between elections. If you pitch it at 16 and you can't actually get to vote until you're 23, it's a very, 18. It's a very, very long gap. It's something that people go to school, they start at secondary school, they get lessons in public life, and it's irrelevant to them. They know that there is this immense gap before they actually get a voice. If you bring the voting age down to the point where they know that they will get to vote before they leave secondary school, then they will pay more attention to what's being told to them. They will have far more of a chance of realising the necessity for that sort of engagement that you're talking about. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, so I mean, just to take John's thoughts a little bit further, certainly the Liberal Democrats would lower the voting age to 16. We've long held that view. We've certainly that's not just to begin the process of encouraging young people to engage in the political process and to point out the relevance of it to their lives, but also I think that we need to make sure that how politics is presented to the wider world, that a lot of people, I mean, certainly in my many years of being involved in politics, it's very noticeable that in the last decade, the malaise amongst the electorate, the number of people who come to the door and say, you're all the same, and we were not all the same, and to say, you know, I don't trust any of you, and the number of people across all age groups, but particularly in the I would say 30-40 year actually age groups, who have been turned off politics and don't believe there's any point in voting anymore and have not voted in throughout their lives. That is extremely worrying. And I mean, of course, politicians and the way they behave, I think, has got a lot to do with that. I think when a member of Parliament says, I'm going to resign, not because of growing queues at food banks, not because patients are dying as a result of ambulance queues, not because of the unfairness in the way in which tax subsidies go to the rich and we don't build enough homes for local people, not for any of those reasons, but because, and I'm going to refer to Nadine Dorries here, because I wasn't given a place in the House of Lords. I mean, no wonder when that's presented as the news of that's the thing that motivates politicians, I think it demonstrates really the kind of corruption at the very centre of politics, which needs to be addressed. And so I would also add the media in this as well, that we do need to, and the Conservatives have been constantly undermining or threatening public service broadcasting, both with the BBC and Channel 4 News and others, which is vitally important, because whenever I've had to try and engage with the media with regard to the most serious issues which were affecting this area and the wider world, they're interested in, well, what's the story, is the question. And I'm saying to them, actually, you should be asking the question, what's the truth? You know, we need to be getting the facts out there. Our public service broadcasting is vitally important because we want a functioning democracy where people are informed and then engaged. Because the number of people I speak to on the doorstep who say, I just don't understand it. I really don't know. I don't even know how to vote, and I don't understand what politics is about. And I'm thinking, and I'm looking at someone for whom, particularly young people, and I'm thinking, well, actually, they are the very people that I'm in politics for, to help people like you and to give you a future. And they are the ones that are most disengaged. And that terrifies me, I have to say. Thank you for the question.
Yes, it's a very good question. I'm both frustrated, but also have a bit of hope. I was quite young when I got involved with protests, saving the ozone layer, saving whales.
We should say so.
Anti-nuclear demonstrations and nuclear, etc. Eventually, we realised that there was a general problem. We needed to get to the heart of the problem. And eventually realised we could only do it through the electoral process. But it was a massive change in our understanding. But this was 40 years ago. And of course, the Ecology Party and the Green Party were formed to try and change things at government level, local and government level. And it has been enormously worrying that we couldn't get more young people involved. I mean, we started to talk about the trends that were beginning to appear. These trends around the problem of sustainability for human activity. The trends that put our very survival at risk. We saw them as affecting our children's children. And we needed to be involved at a political level. So that's what we tried to do. Throughout the period since then, we've begun to realise that we talk about not children's children, but children's children. Then it was children. And now, lo and behold, I can see the things happening around us, around the globe, that are coming to pass now, actually a lot quicker than we thought. The situation is actually dire. We need everybody involved in trying to get to grips with what sustainability really means. We particularly need young people to get involved. But what do we see? What is another set of protest movements? We've got XR, we've got Insulate Britain, and a number of other fields of protest. I am hoping that they too will see that they need to get involved. Because I am now more than 70, and I really think somebody else should be coming along. And we've failed so far to get young people involved.
Every time I've stood in the seat, it's nearly predominantly male and white, and I can't be personally about that, but I do understand your point, and I think the real issue is about trust, and trust really broke down during the extensive scandal, and really calmed. I noticed because I started this journey in 2005, 2007, that all kicked off. The attitude of the law changed completely. It was almost putting every single person, even those constituents now, in that kind of corrupt category. But so I committed myself, both publicly and personally, and I've done what I can to stick to it, to do everything I can to restore trust to being accessible and to engaging people as much as I can in every area. Because politics, everybody takes an interest and is impacted by politics. It just might be their relationship with politicians and the system of Westminster that they're fully, where we're not fully connecting. Ian talked about the kind of things that lots of young people are involved in, particularly in relation to planet and plastic, where they're already very engaged. One thing that I have done, I visited every school in the constituency and on several occasions. I used to go every Friday. That disrupted a bit of COVID, it's difficult to get back. But I've taken the time to meet every school, talk to their Parliament or their council, answer questions. Also, the Parliament Education Service in Parliament is a fantastic service which a lot of schools down here engage with, and I work with them to make sure they get the funding that supports them to travel and get a really good trip to London. Lots and lots of schools have done that even tomorrow we've got a school from the constituency up in Parliament as far as I'm aware still allowed to do that. But I think the challenge is to engage people so that actually they become part of what the solution is. So we've wrestled with housing. I talked about the skill set and the opportunity to get the jobs that people want to do down here. So I've engaged, I worked in the schools and Helston some time ago, but more recently St Ives, Mount Bay and Harrow Baby around things like careers fairs, those kind of opportunities. But also making sure not just that I'm supporting that and supporting teachers in the difficult job they're able to teach and prepare them for the future, but also encouraging people who own businesses locally, who have maybe businesses wouldn't normally be represented at a careers fair, to actually get along there and take part in that, and that's been a really interesting thing. I think one thing that we really could, there's such transition at the moment in Cornwall. If you look at the kind of renewable energy that's coming down the track, the way we're going to have to fix our homes, we're going to have to provide the homes people need, there's real opportunity to reconnect and people all ages to see what opportunities are there for them. And so it's down to us as those who seek to serve in public office and public service to find ways of engaging in that, because we don't have the answers. I've never pretended once that I have the answers, but I certainly want to work to bring people together to find them.
I'll go to this side of the room first, so right at the back, and then over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, the name's Luke. I was born in pretty sad, but I've lived pretty much, down in Helston for probably the last 5 years. Got a question around housing. In this country, last year we built 177,000 houses, with the target of 300,000. That figure hasn't been met for the last 10 years. I think local people obviously want to get on the housing ladder, and they need to obviously, want to live in the local area. I'd like to ask each of the panel what they would be doing to increase that number, because obviously I think with the rising population, we're going to need a lot more houses for people. If they want to live down here, they're going to want to raise a family. So it's obviously going to, be related to school in surgeries, NHS and whatnot. So I'd just like to ask each of the panel what the solutions for that are.
Lovely, thank you very much. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. Let me make my notes.
Housing, yes. You can't put parallels on the side of social unacceptable. So where you're going to put them, I have no idea. It does need an answer. And it does need, I think, a great deal of government investment into the building programme in order that once the houses do get sold off to people, that money recycles and it gives you capacity to build the housing. Whether you can find a way of locating those housing projects, I have no idea at all. That's something I don't have to learn myself.
I'm a housing professional, so I run a charity that builds affordable homes. My formal it's a small charity, we built 300 homes on 27 different sites, and trying to push a very heavy boulder uphill in order to achieve that. I have to tell you, it's an enormous task, particularly if you're actually trying to tick all the right boxes in respect of EPC levels, biodiversity, net gain, etc. We're trying to achieve those kind of developments. So I'm well aware both of the challenges and the nitty-gritty of the detail of trying to go through the development process. And also with others, academics some years ago, used to perform the crossroads and show the nature of the way in which the development system works, particularly in a place like Cornwall. And what actually happens is actually Cornwall is meeting its housing targets. And since the early 1960s up till now, we have been one of the fastest growing places in the United Kingdom. Indeed, the housing stock in Cornwall has almost trebled in that time, because successive governments have told us that we must build to meet the demand for people moving into Cornwall primarily, and also the most recent plan that the government said we're going to add another 7,500 onto that number because of the growth demand. And so a lot of those those homes are being built. And yet, at the end of that process, so one of the fastest growing places, trebling the housing stock in Cornwall, and yet the housing problems of locals have got worse. So one of the things that we learn from that, and we should learn from that, is simply building houses and allowing the development system to be turned into a development charter is not the answer. It is a more sophisticated and complex answer than that. And that's why the development has set in terms of targets, actually saying that of those targets we should be hitting at least 150,000 of those should be in perpetuity for local housing needs. It doesn't tell, as I was saying in my introductory remarks, that I'm studying these issues that both through the small business regularly available on holiday lets, co-day, and other furnished holiday letting tax advantages which holiday lets have. Over £500 million of taxpayers' money has gone into subsidising the holiday home sector in Cornwall in the last decade. I mean, that is money not only that those people, by and large, don't need. I mean, some of them are chalets and they're running businesses and want to make an argument for them. But the large number of those properties that would otherwise be available for permanent residency, one is talking about people who have the wealth to be able to buy additional properties and don't need additional income to be able to maintain their businesses within them. And so the issue then is, first of all, that £500 million has to be far better spent building first homes for locals, okay? And that's certainly something which we do need to do. But also, at the moment, a lot of those people, like our own charity and others, currently have stall schemes because, I have to use the B word here, sorry, but inflation in the construction market is significantly greater than inflation in the market as a whole, and that has put paid to a lot of potential development which is going to address the housing needs. So it's not just small charities like ours, but larger housing associations that are unable to start on site at the moment because of construction costs at the moment. And so what we need is the government, to John rightly said, actually put that extra investment in to turn those many developments to viability to deliver to meet the desperate needs that local people have. Thank you very much.
Well, first of all, I commend Anglo on his efforts in this field over the years. He's done much more than most. I'd just like to give you a couple of anecdotes. Highland Farm has within its boundaries 2 houses. They happen to have sea views. They've been on the market variously for 1.5, 1.9 million, and they're empty most of the year. My second anecdote is that we have a couple of good friends. One's a well-qualified nurse, and a well-qualified tree surgeon, both of which are needed here in Cornwall. They spent 18 months trying to find somewhere to live, and now they're in Yorkshire. There is not a housing crisis, there's a housing distribution crisis in Cornwall. As I understand it, there's 45,000 families need a home, and there's 45,000 second homes and holiday homes. And we need to bring to bear the fiscal levers that we have to change that. It's not right that people are able to use their London bonuses to invest in perfectly good housing here, not to use it, and then to sell it at a huge profit. I've watched one of these houses on our little match go from 750,000 to 1.5 million in 1 year of COVID. We really have to get to grips with this problem in Cornwall. That's all I can say.
There are a number of solutions. Some are now in legislation, others are going to pursue, and I'll run through very briefly. So we do need, I think, a comprehensive review of both social landlords, social housing, but also those who deliver affordable housing, because we've got an example in Monroe. We've got a site has never been in good farming. It's 150 properties being developed, but sold to as an affordable site and sold as shared equity. 3 bedroom properties for £150,000, and that is what they're allowed to charge. That is never going to be resolving the problems we have in that kind of housing. So we need to proper look at why that is allowed, that kind of figure on a 3 bedroom property just outside Penzance. A2, which is the apartment neighbourhood plan in St Ives. St Ives were very early in the neighbourhood plan. I supported a very ambitious clause in it, which meant that all new building would be could only be lived in by as permanent residents. It couldn't be used as a holiday or second home. I supported that. The government backed, because the government can reject or accept a neighbourhood plan. The government backed that, and St Ives was the first in the world, I understand, to introduce that. And it was a very clear message from the community in St Ives that they had enough of homes being torn down and flats on being erected, not resolving any sort of local housing problem. That has now been adopted into national plan legislation, so that the core council can choose to planning floor or condition for properties in the future, so that if you were to want to sell them, whoever was going to buy it, this is an option for core council going forward. If they want to buy your home and use it for something other than residence, they would need to get, the council could require them to get a planning clause on that. Energy homes, there are still far too many I still deliver and I enjoy delivering lots of efforts. I still lots of homes. There are still far too many empty homes. Now, there's lots of reasons for that. But when a home is empty for 21 years, we've got to address that. Now, Cornwall did have an empty home scheme. It's been cut by that, but I'd love to see more investment in addressing that problem. And there is money available to do that. But you do need landlords, if you can find units, a proper relationship with them where they can have confidence that home be used to meet the local need. Retrofitting houses, we also want quality homes that live in healthy children, children getting the best they can for education. Wherever there's a living disability, the skills, I'm going to keep returning to skills because, and quite right, the cost of building houses is extraordinary compared to when I was in the job. But the part of it is we just don't have the skills, and so we've got to have a proper revolution, a real leveling up of Cornwall through getting the skills agenda going. And we've invested, the government has invested massive amounts of money in Cambridge College, huge amounts of money in Campbell Tech and Truro, all been able to deliver these skills. Campbell, for example, has got, I understand from them, one of the best working training environments for electricians available in the country. And then there's something called Help to Buy is one that supports younger people to get their deposit. And that's been, I know lots of young couples who have managed to buy a home and have done it through that. But finally, one thing I've worked on for years, and it's actually a policy change in central government, is rent to buy. And this is a model where working families can access a brand new home for a lifelong tenancy, and then at some point during that time they can purchase that property, and they get 10% of that property back from who they're purchasing from. There are no shortage of cash to deliver this. It's pension fund money. The company, local company, has ambition for Cornwall. But so far, Cornwall Council, under various administrations, have resisted it, and they've challenged me to find a site where we can do it. I found a site in St Brian, Town Meadows. That didn't go to be picked, but it is now providing local housing, social housing. But now we've identified another site, not a million miles away, where there could be 90 homes provided, where people have a lifetime tenancy at affordable rent and the option to buy later on. That is a way of really going to support people who actually want to get housing, but as you said, they just feel that they've got no chance of doing it. And that's really sad. But people are making choices about how they use their money because they don't believe that housing will ever be accessible to them.
Thank you very much. Yes, I agree with that about the housing. There's plenty of empty places. If you go around, walk around the town to look at a couple of shops, there's many empty places falling apart that need funding. But the main issue here is rural housing. What does that mean? Well, I looked that up on the government website, and there are lots of national statistics, and that means that they should be sold at half to 80% less than the market value. So let's look at the maths of that. I mean, we need to examine this. This is not going to work, but I do have a suggestion. If you look at the average St Hustings constituency see house price currently actually not offer so much more specific. It's £495,000. At 50% discount, you still need a deposit of £24,500, £14,500 fees to move in, and an income of £49,500 per annum to sustain that mortgage, even at a 50% discount. I think that young people should have houses built for them, and they should not have to pay more than a fixed amount. Let's, for example, say 100,000, payable mortgage on 100,000, and we put taxpayers, not government funding, government funding, that's all funding, that's all taxpayers funding, and we put that into the system. How do we get that? We cannot stop houses being bought out in the holiday homes. In fact, that's part of our economy, but we need a balance. What I see is many youngsters who are our workforce leaving. And if this carries on, we're going like Italy, where they've got villages now where they're selling houses for €1 because nobody lives there. If nobody lives there, nobody is going to serve the holiday industry, and those houses are going to go. So they need to be in the game. They need to know that part of their ability to have services, maintenance, cleaners, and the industry that supplies food, they need to know that there's workers still able to stay in the area to work for. How do we do that? Why not one idea? Ring fence the council tax from the holiday homes alone, and that is put into building houses which will have a ceiling price for local people to buy and keep the local workers.
Thank you very much. Thank you. The emergency is on its way.
Hi, my name's Laura. I work at Helston Secondary School as part of the pastoral team, and I jointly look after all year 10 students. So I look after their mental health, their social well-being, everything you can imagine from education ways. We are seeing a huge rise, not just in Helston or Cornwall, but the whole country, of mental health issues. We lost 200 kids last year to suicide alone. I can't remember the last time in 3 years where I've not dealt with a mental health crisis at the school. That is self-harm, that is suicide attempts at school, at home, witnessing trauma, drugs, alcohol abuse. That's just the children. We don't even want parents of suicide. We are losing huge communities around us to mental health. The services that we have are not adequate at all. If somebody loses someone, you're a child, they have to wait 6 months for a referral to an adult friend. It's not adequate. When they finally get referred, you can, it's actually 18 months. You go 6 sessions, and you sign up, you're done. I don't know myself personally, but 6 sessions of counselling is not enough. You just got prepared for suicide, or you just taking your attempt to your own life. So what can you do to actually support our students so as they grow up on their formative years to adulthood to have a stable mental health for all of society, not just the kids, but growing up in adulthood in their lives?
Thank you very much, an excellent question, and absolutely we need to establish parity between mental and physical health, something which has not been the case for many years. And I know when I was on the Health Select Committee in Parliament, we undertook an inquiry for some long time into the, particularly childhood and adolescent mental health services, the CAMS that's been referred to in the question. And that is a service which has been significantly denuded of funding and support, which it should not have been. So we're asking for, and we will be calling for, and will continue to campaign for, that parity between the two. But also, it is the issue of how we fund it. So we would put additional tax on digital companies that are making massive profits at the moment, in order to fund particularly mental health support through the school system, which we think is significantly inadequate, as you say. I am very unimpressed by the way in which the academy trusts operate. Yes, the chief executives do go around in swanky cars and have very, very, very large pay packets, but those at the front line trying to provide, the chalk face of schools are struggling, and the SEN services just don't have the support. So all schools are struggling with lack of support for pupils, at the front line, and we believe that should be properly funded. And certainly, our manifesto, which was launched yesterday, gives a very clear indication not only why we make this a priority, but also how we would fund this. So thank you for raising the question. It's really important, mustn't be lost in the wider debate. So thank you for raising it.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
So over to you again.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I do want to qualify, but it's a frightening question. No doubt, we are in no doubt that the care system needs much more funding, much more preventative care. There is also the view, and I've got a lot of it, we need to provide much more green space access, much more involvement in the natural world.
Okay, that's why I can answer the question.
There is a regenerative and remunerative aspect of improving people's well-being in that area. And we out in Northern and North Coast are trying to involve more people in the work that we do. But overall, we need to give young people particularly hope and opportunity, occupational training, and a real sense of involvement. But the care system, it seems to be the full basis, basically at full. And, we've got some plans to tax people, rich people, as you know. We also need more tax coming from the carbon industries, so we can fund these very important aspects for young people. I think that's all I can say on it. It's a frightening problem.
Yes, thank you very much.
The kind of boring bit is that back in 2018, the government launched a 10-year NHS plan, and right at the very beginning of it addressed this issue and recognised that it was the most important thing to have to grab with, and supporting children to get right kind of assessments, right kind of sports, and much over intervention. And there has been extraordinary amounts of money chucked at it, and I think we recognise now, it's amazing how others like the back more and more people recognise that actually that just throwing money sounds a very easy answer for politicians to have, but it's actually about how you support those who want to go and to stay in that area of work. I go around schools, as I said, I think that various schools are addressing the issue as much as best they possibly can, as you described. I met some of your team at Helston. It was really a great afternoon to see what they were doing to try and address some of the challenges with keeping the young people in the solution there. But I absolutely know what you're talking about, because only parents, only last week, a family came to see where they're absolutely at wit's end, trying to support their child at the best possible start, and they're just banging their head against everything from getting business, from getting the education, healthcare plan, etc., etc. I think one of the issues that is important is the money per site is support is an enormous amount of money. But then when you get to a state where a child is in need of very specialist education, that is taking 120,000 plus a year to provide that for them. It's absolutely right to do that. And what we're not able to do, and this is where we've got to address not just money, but the whole way we support families, is we've got to intervene much earlier in the difficulty that presents families. We need what I've been arguing on as a different subject in relation to health, is that you need one person who's the point of reference for that family, so that whatever support, whatever care, whether it's physical, or mentor. You've got one person coordinating that, coordinating relationship with education, coordinating relationship with social care, coordinating relationship with NHS. That would really help take the pressure and stress off families and ease the situation that they're all that whole families trying to live with. So all foundations trust. I work closely with managers. They're the ones responsible for delivering a large part of their staff, and the council do a large part of their accounts. They really are busting their gut to try and solve this. They recognise it. They're doing what they can to get more and more training. We actually put into, we created an opportunity for these providers to put in specialist individuals in every single school, secondary school, and to support primary school, so that children had someone to go into school where they could have a relationship and build up that support is needed. There's tools, social prescribing, most of us will be aware of that now. That's a really good way to move more into supporting the whole person, not just providing the drugs they might need. But what I want to say, I don't know if you appreciate this or not, what I really want to say about schooling is we need to scrap league tables, we need to take the pressure off, attainment in terms of GCSE results, and we need to look after the whole child, and that is about value added, not the exam they get at the end. Now, I got trouble for things like this in my league school some time ago. The packet newspaper to interrupt us so different to as I intended. But we have created a problem for schools where the league tables is how they judge. And so as a result, some children don't fit on that particular conveyor belt, and that's really tragic. I would love to see that change. I'd love to see schools be given much more control over the education they provide. And instead of, if we were to review and reassess how Ofsted is going to go forward, we probably just need to deliver peer review rather than Ofsted. No, not every teacher appreciates that. But I think good head teachers are perfectly capable of helping and supporting another school to deliver the outcomes for children if that's what's needed. There's a massive overhaul of where education is needed to go, because the jobs that children are doing, the way they live their lives today are very different than 10, 15 years ago. And so education's got to adapt to create that whole support for a whole child.
Thank you very much for that.
Sure. I think I've been hearing various words like funding, corporate taxes, and more tax on people. I think the problem in this country now is there's too many people in the middle taking too big a slice of the cake, and it's not actually getting on the ground. Agencies, there are agencies for everything, quangos for this, that, and the other, and most things are being privatised behind our back, where we're being told by elements of the government are telling us this, that, and the other is going to get better, whilst behind our backs are selling things off. I've been studying this now for 15 years. If I showed you some of the figures, you'd be shocked. For instance, if a young child is taken into care, 193,000 is the annual cost of one child taken into care. A very small portion of that is actually caring for the child. It's actually organising agencies who take big cuts. And I look around the audience, there's people in here obviously who work for nursing agencies where they're doing the hard work, yet twice their hourly pay is taken by an agency just sitting there administering it. We have far too much administration. There's plenty of money in this country. There's economists now that will say that we could reduce tax on people in this country and it would run a lot better. I think, Andrew, you mentioned corruption at the top. There are corrupt elements taking it. For instance, the post office. We knew in 2015 that the post office Horizon scandal was completely over the top and everything was going wrong. We knew in 2015. In fact, I have served papers on people, lawful papers on people in the highest places regarding that thing, that particular issue. I have been doing private investigations over the last, as I say, 15 years, and I shy away from knowing. I have lawsuits and legal papers, as you all know, on ministers, etc., for failing to do their duty. They have totally and utterly failed. Not all of them, just the question. The question is your children and your mental health. It's not getting the funding because the funding is going in the wrong places. It's not trickling down to where it should be. There are too many people from the top down to the bottom who are making agencies and taking the lion's share. We need to overhaul.
County funding pot is not being claimed for SEN. Where does that go if that's not claimed? £10 million.
£10 million. Where does that go?
That's specifically for SEN students, mental health and social
probably, I'm just asking a question here. I'm wondering if it's going to balance the books, because Common Council sold up 2,000 pieces of public real estate in the last year just to balance the books. So one has to wonder what is going on. Where is all this money going? The taxes are going up and the services are going down.
Well, thank you very much.
Question, mental health crisis among the young. And Derek mentions early intervention. Yes, I agree entirely with the early intervention, but if you're waiting a year before you get to see anybody at all, that is not an answer. There are ways coming along to do with artificial intelligence and generative AI systems, and if you can get these in place, then you can have your early intervention, you can have somebody with a crisis and it can be dealt with the same day. But you do need a system that isn't there for private companies to make profits from gathering information, and you don't know where it's going to go, you don't know what it's going to be used for. These things need to be trusted, they need to be under total supervision, and at that point you will have an answer to every call for help. That, I think, is the way to look, rather than to try to train up masses and masses of people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're rapidly running out of time. From this man here, I've got to come to this young chap in the front row here. Thank you.
Can I just ask if the panel are happy to stay? It is 8:30, but there's so many people here with so many questions. Two more questions, you can keep the answers quick, and the questioners even quicker.
Okay, so we need a microphone there, please.
Hello, my name is Brian Matthews, and my question is to Derek Thomas concerning the largest increase in sewage discharge in Cornwall's history. Farmers in Cornwall have been excluded from the legitimate business of preventing sewage discharge. George Eustace and Helen Dobby's County Palatine imposition has changed the legal interpretation of residual sludge. Honourable Justice Helston High Court ruled that resultant residual sludge can be both a liquid and a solid, depending on the liquid fraction. Helen Dobby, as head of the Environment Agency, has placed herself above this law, and with her interpretation, she has interpreted residual sludge as a solid without a liquid fraction. George Eustace could have legitimised this at Parliament by implied repeal. He did not. Helen Dobby could have legitimised this in court by implied repeal. He did not.
So can you just get to the question, please?
The question. I put a parliamentary ombudsman complaint to Derek Thomas 18 months ago. He's got 40 to 50% of his constituency on septic tanks, all going to sea, all could have been stopped, and farmers out of business because of a legal interpretation that is not legal.
Thank you very much.
So thank you for that question, because that's the one I battled, and it's really important that we address it. So there is a lot of effort from some to stop storm overflows illegally, just to say it is no longer legal to allow any runoff from our sewer system, which is largely, unfortunately, rain and runoff from roads and our back gardens, our rooftops and fields, to run into the sea. When the system is overrun, that's what happens now. Now, one of the implications, we have introduced the Environment Act, it's the most ambitious legislation around the environment in the world. Included in that is the work to address storm overflows. And included in that is an interpretation the Environment Agency have applied, which means that septic tanks, it cannot be spread. I mean, you're correct, but my understanding is it cannot be spread as it was previous to this being imposed by the Environment Agency 18 months, 2 years ago. As a result of that, septic tanks are filling up. Portland was one of the homes where they struggled, nursing homes struggled to get their septic tanks emptied. The storage that the companies has been increased. There's a huge amount of money to do that. And so now we know that septic tanks have been emptied and then shipped out of county to be treated. What the issue is, that South West Water wouldn't allow anyone to empty septic tanks at Hale treatment plant when they were overrated, because it would add, as I think you indicated, to increase storm overflows. So it's trying to address public pressure which we absolutely must do, to stop storm overflows. Now, what I worked at the time, I worked with South West Water, and they increased capacity quite considerably, so it hasn't been as bad. But we did have a period, 2 years, 18, maybe 24 months, 30 months ago, and last year, where there were septic tanks on private homes in Portland, in Ashton, and around that area. It was not being used because of this pressure on trying to reduce the overflows. So actually, sewage emptying into land. Part of the problem is my plastics, because most sewage now contain plastics which we have to address. I've worked with South West Water very constructively and deliberately to address this problem. And they have committed and have worked their way through spending about £44 million on trying to address both leaking of clean water, but also leaking of our sewer system and reducing soil overflows. Legislation is highlighted for triage to bring in soil overflows. But if we do it in a way that addresses the problem of soil overflows no longer going into the sea, then you have exactly the situation which this gentleman is referring to, because it means that septic tanks and private homes will, not just private homes, but the main system will back up into our homes, and that can never be acceptable.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know if anybody else wants to add anything to that, very quickly, is that okay?
Okay, well, in order.
Also, I think
Okay.
to the South West was clean sweeping of the sewers, and we spent millions on it. How much? 44 millions
In South West Water.
in the last few years. I wonder how many millions went to shareholders. This is private things.
I will respond to that very quickly. So two things. So 7% of outlets were monitored in 2010, 100% now. So actually it does look.
That is a lie.
No, it's not.
It is a lie.
Okay, I'll
I'm not.
Okay, we're going to have
Sorry,
a few seconds. So
secondly, if they breach any permits, they cannot pay shareholders, or dividends.
Thank you very much.
That's in legislation.
can you say getting that much over the hand around side of the speaking? Now, I'm going to have to move on, because there's a young man down here who's been desperate to get a question from the beginning. I really do want to take that question, so please, if somebody reminds us, it's going to have over.
Hello, my name is Clara Jolly, and I've been born and raised here in Sydney. As a young person with hope for my future, my question is, what are the plans of using the UK's nuclear deterrent?
On the nuclear deterrent. Okay, we're going to go very quickly on this, okay? Jason?
I won't be able to comment on that.
No?
No.
I've just started at the and they've come back to me last.
Could I just clarify, did you say the use of
hear the question?
Sorry?
Did you hear the question, Andrew?
Having the nuclear. So it was, what are the panel's views on the existence of the nuclear deterrent?
Why? Thank you.
Okay. I was struggling as well. Okay, I just explained the job. Yeah. That's what he's asking, yes.
So I'm entirely anti-nuclear. But what you can't do, unfortunately, is say they're not there. And it's not either true to say that we have any control on it. We don't seem to have, because the Americans control whether we use it or not. So we need to be a little bit careful about how we can go forward. I've been watching the Ukraine situation very, very carefully. It's a great worry. It should be a great worry to all of us, because if Russia didn't stop in Ukraine, we will be facing Russia across Europe. You have to ask yourselves why it hasn't used nuclear weapons so far. And the general feeling is because America will return twice as much as you can give out. So, you know, as much as I don't like it, the mutual, the MAD strategy seems to be working. I personally would like to see an end to nuclear weapons.
Thank you, Ian.
The UK is committed to nuclear disarmament, and that there is an international programme where we're working in that direction, and we have reduced our abilities quite significantly. But it is a deterrent. As far as I'm concerned, we need to maintain, or it must always be a deterrent, nothing more. That sounds a bit like Jeremy Corbyn, but it wasn't intended to. But I just think that with Russia and China, the world's becoming an increasingly dangerous place. They are pressing and stretching their muscles and just trying to reduce the threats to something that's useless. Whether the nuclear deterrent is, I think that's an important part of that, but certainly it's been a part. We must, more than anything at all, work for peace always. That must be the reason we get out of bed, is to work for peace and work for full life for everybody, wherever they want to.
It's a very good question. I just think that perhaps if we weren't antagonising so many people in the world and supplying arms in the mass quantities that we are from Britain and where the world, why are we supplying massive technology and arms to the Ukraine if we're worried about things kicking off? I think the question is, and it's only a question, maybe should we stop supplying arms and put our money into something else?
You need to ask yourself, do you want security by having the nuclear deterrent, and you can then have small armies, you can have small armed forces within the UK, which you can't then send abroad to create mayhem? Or do you want a large army because you've got rid of your nuclear forces, and at that point the government can do whatever it wants with them? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the Liberal Democrats are content to support the for nuclear submarine nuclear deterrent. I believe it should be a matter of conscience. I've always consistently, when I was in Parliament, voted against the replacement of the nuclear submarines. I don't think it's justifiable. I don't think it's the most effective use of funds. And indeed, I think what we should be doing is concentrating our efforts on international diplomacy far more than we are. For example, in Gaza, the UK has a very influential position, should have been within the first week calling for an immediate and lasting ceasefire and to stop the bloodbath. So, and there are many other things which, in international terms, which I think this country should be concentrating on, and which actually having, if you like, our attention drawn too much to whether we have or have not a nuclear deterrent is actually distracting us from many other very important international matters, which I think the UK can play a leading role in. Thank you.
I was going to ask each of the candidates, if you are elected, what is your number one priority for this constituency?
Lovely, thank you very much. Let's go very quickly then. No. We're going to do what is your top priority. Well, I'm going to start this time. Jason.
My top priority for all the people.
If you were elected.
If I was elected for
this constituency.
No, it's very difficult. Well, you can stretch.
Thank you. Now, if I'm elected for the general election for UKIP, I'm there for mostly or everybody. That's a genuine thing. The other part is that I'm looking at sort of the way we live, housing, and also the way taxation and employment.
Lovely, thank you very much. What was your top priority?
Top priority.
Mine's taxation.
Thank you very much.
I have a career experience in helping people conserve energy
Oh, I know, it's difficult.
Renewable energy, and I'd like to see every coal building home in West Penrith upgraded, retrofitted so that we can reduce those costs to attack the cost of living.
Thank you.
Yeah, I pick up on that, because the most exciting bit about the job is how we navigate that transition to a fossil-free and a harm-free existence. And so it is actually how we just give people the quality of life that they deserve.
What's your top priority? Just answer the question.
Sorry, I did. It's how we navigate. It is. It's that. How we navigate, how we bring everyone together to find a way to get to that outcome. That is my top priority.
Thank you.
I think my top priority is finding out what you all want and what's best for you and delivering it. There's no good delivering what
I'll give you a top priority of universal basic income. I think that is something that people have to approach eventually, and the sooner the better.
Thank you.
I'm very heavily influenced with the fact that a top priority needs to be one that can be delivered relatively quickly, and therefore my top priority would be housing justice. We need to combat the housing injustice in places like Cornwall, and to make sure that we build and provide safe, secure, affordable, decent accommodation for local families. That is a foundation for life in a place like Cornwall. Thank you.
Sorry? I know it's got loads of people, I'm afraid. I'll try to get around in order.
It's frustrating, isn't it?
So we're going to go around now 1 minute each to sum up your priorities, what you stand
You're
for,
first.
what you're going to start this end.
You're first. Yeah. Go first, yeah.
My summary.
Yeah, your summary.
My summary is for what can you sign up?
Yeah. Well, sum up in 1 minute what your priority. Yeah. Why people should vote for you.
Thank you.
Because I'll get ready in a second.
That's right. No, you carry on. Go on. It's your turn.
Okay. But my views of what I should be voted for St Ives constituency for UKIP is basically, it's not about politics, it's about the people.
Okay. For me, this election is about attempting to turn things around from the disaster of the country that we have at the moment, and to restore this country somehow, in spite of the chaos that is existing at present. And in my view, we need to re-establish kindness in this country. And people are saying, well, how can a politician do that? And what's the relevance of kindness? And indeed, I think it was a Conservative supporting person who said, oh, no, we don't want kindness, we want strength. Well, let me tell you that there's nothing weak about standing up to bullies and facing them down. There's nothing weak about confronting bigots. There's nothing weak about challenging powerful vested interests. And that's what kindness is about. And we need to re-establish a sense of kindness in this country which pervades all aspects of policy making in order that we can build a strong economy and establish an environment in which is fit for our children. Thank you.
I'm not standing for the common people in order to win this constituency. I'm not going to win it. What I want is sufficient people to back the ideas that you'll find in the manifesto when I finally get that out, in the leaflets that come through your doors. If I get sufficient backing, there will be more people standing in more constituencies for those opinions. And I would like some of those. Thank you.
I just want to make I just think it's being dictated to by people who have no clue what's needed in Cornwall. And the idea is, I think Einstein once said, the definition of madness is voting for the same thing time and time again, and expecting a different outcome. Basically, we've seen big parties go red, blue, all over, left, right, left, right. It just seems to be over the years, we've had the same old, and it's time for a change. And it looks like an independent is needed who actually lives, works, and understands what's down here, and making sure that you people have a say in what goes on, and not being dictated to from above. And I thought, I'll stand as an independent, and I am in it to win. I'm not going to give up. Yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm staying.
I might get a chance to convert this couple. So the way that I would approach the job is to listen to as many people. I've done over 400 drop-in surgeries and meetings actually making themselves available. I've responded to thousands of emails, supported 24,000 different families with issues they've got, and I've listened and carefully understood what the challenges are, and then tried to work with whoever wants to work with me to try and get issues done. There's nothing I've ever done in Westminster that hasn't started with a conversation here. And I'll battle, if I get the privilege of continue to serve, I'll continue to battle the challenges that are faced here to try and get a better outcome in legislation in Westminster. That is the job of the MP. And it is an extraordinary privilege to grow just outside of the town to be someone who would never normally have got into a political party politics as an MP. And the fact that this system we have in the country allows that to happen is really extraordinary. I don't take any of that for granted.
Thank you very much. The job of the Green Party is to try and ward off the worst excesses of economic endeavour and try and develop a human economy that's in harmony with nature. But at the same time, it appears the things we need to do happily help people reduce the cost of living. So the cost of living crisis that we have before us now, we can do something about that as well as develop a more harmonious situation with our general environment and help ward off climate chaos. We have the ability and we have the opportunity to provide ourselves with all the energy from the wind, sun and tide. Why haven't we done it? When only 10% of Cornwall's energy comes from renewable sources. We need to do something about water companies wasting so much money and not getting on with the job. That should be taken back into public service. And of course, food is a major issue. Why do we allow supermarkets to take so much money from us and take it out of the county? That's it. I've had my time. Sorry.
And also thank you to everybody, particularly to the candidates this evening for coming along and answering our questions. I'm really sorry that we couldn't take every question. I was making a note we were getting around. I mean, in an hour we were only able to really address 6 questions, so it's a real shortage. There are other hustings in the constituency, I understand. They're going to be arranged, so maybe we better go to those. But thanks a lot to everybody. Thank you today for arranging the event.
Thank you, Kat, for chairing, and please put hands together for them. Everyone done well. To see a full hall taking interest in local politics. We hope to hold after the election more question time Helston, so if you're up for it, whether you want to sit on the panel or ask questions, those of you who haven't had questions answered tonight, please don't be put off, come back again. I think the more we engage with politicians more frequently, the more we start to understand what the issues are and also what the candidates and the people who represent us actually don't understand what we really care about.
When is the next one? Sorry to interrupt.
Say again,
when is the next one?
We haven't got a date yet, but we'll put it out on social media and through the press. Thank you very much once again, and thank you very much for all the cameras.
Well done, everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you, Pat. Thank you.